Hey, so if you had asked me 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago, before I started this channel, if I would have even talked about climate change one time, I would have said, nope, probably not. And now here I am talking about climate change a third time. So, what happened? Episode 3, I just decided to just give it a shot, just kind of go on about it, and I did. And then I realized I was a little bit wrong in that one. And so I started reading about it. I started listening to YouTubers about it, and I looked at the IPCC report from 2021, and well, now I have to keep talking about it. This is not going to become a climate change channel. I'm not going to talk about that too much, but I did say that I was just going to express myself as I go and just talk about what I'm thinking about. And so here we go. Today's Sunday, October 3rd. It's about 10 a.m. Another beautiful day. It rained recently, so I gotta got my waterproof boots on. Highly recommend these boots. Eagle. Good stuff. Made by the French, I think. So my YouTube feed is now half filled with climate change videos. I guess I should say this right away. I'm a big YouTube user. That's part of the reason I'm doing this channel is I love YouTube. I use it a lot. I'm probably a pretty heavy YouTube user. I have their subscription, I pay $5 a month or whatever so I can watch videos with the phone screen off. That's the main reason I did it. Then I can just turn on some podcast or interview and put my phone in my pocket without worrying about it. So anyway, I have been getting all these climate change videos in my feed now, and 9 out of 10 of them are scary, right? Like the title's in big letters and it says something like we have 9 years left, or the picture will be like a giant forest fire. It's not hard to make a scary video about climate change. If you accept the data that they're putting out, then yeah, you can make the argument pretty easily you can at least make a negative argument. So, and this is just something I wanted to talk about a little bit. Wanted to talk about, well, this video might go on quite a while. I should speak more slowly. I tend to speak too quickly. I just get revved up, and then I just go and I go and I go and I go, and then I will say something wrong, and I want to be careful about that. One of the people that I listen to quite a bit is Sam Harris. I've probably been a Sam Harris fan. I mean, I don't really know what that means to be a fan of somebody like that, but I have known of his existence since I was like 13 or 14 years old. I've been listening to him for over a decade, and one of the things that's so impressive about him is the way he speaks. I mean, he talks slowly sometimes, but he's very deliberate, and he doesn't mess up, not like I do at least. And so I would like to learn from him and speak more like that. He talks a lot about mindfulness, and he talks a lot about meditation and consciousness and the human mind. He's very introspective. It seems to me that if you want to speak properly, you have to be mindful. You have to maintain. You can't let yourself get out of control, and that's something I got to practice. So anyway, back to climate change stuff. So it's hard to know where to start here. I have so much to say. Everything ranging from the denial of it, to the trust of the data, to the responses to it. I mean, once you start thinking about this stuff, it doesn't stop, at least to me. There's so much to think about. So there's the IPCC report, and then there's scientific consensus, whatever you think that means, and then there's skeptics, and there's deniers, there's people with solutions. Some people think that some people are sort of making an argument that we will invent technology, or we will utilize current technology to a greater extent to absorb the carbon. Like, maybe this isn't even worth worrying about, because some person, some very powerful organization, some rich person, will just set up a giant carbon capture machine that will suck all the extra carbon out of the air. And that's possibly wishful thinking. Or maybe it's not. I think if you look at the graphs of solar panel usage, sometime in the early 2030s, we should be well on our way to having plenty of solar power. But there will still be carbon in the air, and it's not like we're going to stop burning fossil fuels at that point. We have a lot of momentum riding on fossil fuels, and the IPCC put out graphs of, if we continue burning the way we are, if we make modifications, if we stop completely, if we keep burning more, what's going to happen. And it'll be like between a 1 degree increase of global temperature to a 4 degree increase. And, there's a lot of climate models. I looked at more of those about what's going to happen. I looked at where I live specifically, and one of the nice things is it's not going to get much warmer where I'm at. And it will rain a little bit more. That is true. So, good for me. So I'm going to do what I do, where I address both sides, and I'm going to start with that. Talk about the boomers. So I think a large amount of the people in complete denial are the boomers. No offense, boomers, but a lot of people think that this is just some natural process. Or there's also the conspiracy theory kind of people that will say that this is just an attempt by the globalists to take more power. And well, I'll come back to the globalists. That's worth thinking about, at least. And then, on the other side of the spectrum, you have the Zoomers. People that are younger than me, who are completely freaking out. Like I keep saying, they're not having kids, some of them, or they've decided to not have children, because they believe that it's pointless to have children in a world that will soon be overrun by droughts and wildfires and floods and things. And it's like, come on. We'll be all right. We're going to make it through this. This is a manageable issue. It is possible, even if we did nothing, even if we just completely were blind to this, it's not going to kill everybody. People will survive. The human race has been through far, far worse. Far worse. With less technology. There were little nomadic tribes of human beings that survived through the Ice Age. The sea level was hundreds of feet lower, and crazy things have happened, and the humans have survived. We are good at surviving. So, my thought process is, at least I'm gonna make it. I don't know about everybody else, but I'll figure it out. So the potential solutions to this are go from here? How do I talk from this point? See, I didn't come in with a plan, or I have no idea what I'm gonna. Let me think for a minute. All of the solutions that I would suggest are going to be very, very technology focused. I focus more on technology based solutions than I would policy based solutions, because well, first of all, that's just how I think. I think more about things than I do about people. I think that's just generally true. And technology makes more sense to me than policy ideas make any sense. And I also, there's this sense that if I were to hand somebody, if I were to, in kind of an imaginary situation, if I were to invent or invest in or support the creation of carbon capture technology for maybe pulling carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere to kind of reverse what's happening, that can't be the technology itself, like the box that would pull the carbon out. I can trust that that won't be used for anything other than pulling carbon out. Like that's the, maybe we pulled too much out, but that's the idea, is that I can't trust policies. And I can't trust institutions that make policies. And you know, you look at the IPCC, it was started by the UN, if I understand that correctly. I don't know that I can trust the UN. I don't know that I can trust the IPCC, because their incentives are not pure. They're going to tell you that they're concerned with the human race and that they love truth and science. Like, they have a written mission statement, and they have people who they'll have true believers. They will have good people in their organization. I believe that. But you get what you incent, and I think the incentives, okay, back to the globalists. Gotta bring in the sort of the Alex Jones perspective here. Can you trust a you have to accept that there are people who want power. And it's not just people. You have to accept that there are institutions and organizations that want power, just through the way they're built. Like, if you look at a capitalist organization, cynically, if you look at it cynically, it will have a written mission statement, right? But truly, a capitalist organization wants to make money. If there's a CEO or somebody in a position of power that is doing something that makes less money for some moral reason, eventually they're going to get replaced by somebody who will abandon their morals and just try to make money. And that's just the nature of these organizations. That's what happens over time. They're just, they sort of just, I mean, they're in an environment where the incentive is the one with most money wins. And so if you do have a company that is following good behavior, good morals, they're going to make less money and they're going to lose out in the end. And so the ones that are going to win are the ones that abandon all morals. They'll pretend to have morals. You know, they'll put up the black square on Instagram for BLM. They'll say, oh, here we are planting trees, and they put up a facade of morality, but in reality, they are just doing what they can to make money. And so think about things like the UN, things like these institutions. Like, who is behind the IPCC? What is their incentive? And do these institutions just want more power? Are they going to use... Who is going to use climate change as an excuse for emergency power? Because that's what I see coming down the road here. I see the American government, I see other governments using this as an excuse for more power. And once you give them the power, they don't give it back. And that is what I'm afraid of. And I've said this in another video, I'm liberal. Really. You know, I would love to solve the climate change problem. I would love to be a part of the solution. I would love to support something if I could. The issue is I don't trust these people, and I don't trust these institutions. I know that you can't give people power because of an emergency, and then you have to realize that there's an incentive to create an emergency to get more power. And this is, to me, this is obvious. It happens all the time. I mean, isn't that exactly what Hitler did? Like, you create emergency, create panic, use panic to get power. It's what has happened at the beginning of this COVID thing. I mean, I don't know if I'm not saying they created COVID, but they used it as an excuse to get more power. And, you know, fuck that. What else to say about that? I don't want the federal government to have any more power than it currently does. It's arguably the most powerful thing on Earth right now. And it's just, I mean, it's not like it just stops. It just grows. It's like the nature of the beast. It just grows and grows and grows. It gets more powerful. And we've given it all this power from... Wow. I'm going off the rails. Slow down. Slow down. I didn't eat breakfast this morning. Had my coffee as usual. There's some balance between, you know, this is an issue. We are burning fossil fuels at an extreme rate, and those gases get into the atmosphere, and that is unprecedented, and it's going to change things. And this is an issue with physical consequences. This is like with the mask thing. You know, it's like we need to behave reasonably with climate change. We have people who are hiking by themselves out in the wilderness wearing a mask because they're, you know, I don't know what to call those people other than, you know, something insulting. And they've bought into some narrative of panic, and they're behaving irrationally over it. And this same exact thing is happening right now and will continue to happen. It will probably get worse. People are going to start behaving completely irrationally over climate change, and we're going to enact irrational policies. We're going to give too much power to certain institutions that aren't going to give the power back ever. I mean, we're going to have people, it won't be surprising to me if they say, hey, you're not allowed to drive your car so many miles per day, right? They're going to set rules on how often you can drive and how often you can consume certain products, or it's just, and it's not going to be rational. It won't be. I mean, 2020 and 2021 has demonstrated to me that I can't trust our institutions to make rational policy decisions anymore. I can't, because of what has happened around COVID. There was a reasonable response to make, and we didn't make it. We didn't make a reasonable response. And we're just divided into extreme camps. And the same thing is happening with climate change. You have the boomers versus the zoomers. That's kind of my breakdown on it. I know that those might be slightly offensive terms to use, but you know, the boomers are saying do nothing, and the zoomers are saying do everything. And then you have the doomers who are just doom scrolling, like on my YouTube feed, right? All these, if I continue watching these videos, I could go down a rabbit hole of just doom, and I could scroll and just understand that I would just work myself into a depressive, panicky, just, you know, my IQ would go down if I watched these videos constantly, because I'd become a doomer. I think that that's a thing. I think some people are doomers, and I think that it's from doom scrolling. And what it allows you to do is reject personal responsibility. I think that that's a really interesting thing that happens with people that are into these narratives, and it happens on the right and the left. So on the left, you're going to have people that are doom scrolling through climate change videos, and they're just like, fuck it all, you know, we're all doomed anyway, like, screw it, you know, and they get in that loss of responsibility, like, why should I do anything? Because it's an easy way out. It gives you an excuse to not have to do anything. You don't have to take any responsibility. It's not your fault that climate change is happening. I mean, some people are taking responsibility, and they're consuming less of certain products, and they're driving less, and they're, you know, they do that kind of stuff, which, good for them, you know, take responsibility. I think that's good. You have people on the right who just, they're also like doom scrollers. They think that, you know, Marxism is going to destroy America, and that our society is doomed from extreme leftists, basically. Like, I think that that's another kind of doom scrolling. We got to stop with the doom scrolling. We got to stop with the extremism, and we have to solve our problems realistically, manageably. It's a manageable problem. But I'm not down to give anybody emergency power. Not over this. But it's probably going to happen. I can't really stop it, can I? My only power right now is what tiny amount of money I have. But that's going to be spent on food and materials to work on my house. The only other thing I can do is make this YouTube channel and try and... I hope that I can demonstrate that I can speak reasonably. I hope I can demonstrate that I'm not a doomer or a climate change denier or somebody who's panicking about it like the Zoomers are, you know? I just want to... All I want to do is have a reasonable discussion. We should just... Okay, I should end this video. I'm not going anywhere with this anymore.